welcome back to Think Point Podcast. Today we are going to have a discussion surrounding about the issues of the Hussein case. Still now we are on it, and then yesterday we have had Lamin Jedabo, and we've discussed about the whole situation and then some of the drama surrounding the case. And we are happy to welcome back Melvin, the one we had here before, shortly before the ruling, and we have discussed extensively about some of the issues regarding about the whole issue, and he have discussed at length, even though most of his videos have went viral. And today he will get into the evidences, the witness testimonies, and then the ruling, and even aftermath. What are some of the things that really revolve around the case? And before that, I'm just going to allow Doctor to say hi. Yesterday he was absent. Doc, good to have you.
Oh, thank you very much. It's good to be back here, man, and it's good to have a conversation, my brother. We've always had these conversations all throughout this case, and he's been very instrumental in it altogether. So, it's pleasing to again, be on here to still look into the same matter and all that we had expected, things had gone that way. So that only speaks to the fact that, everything that he had put us through legally, and of course, opinions and how, the case was, failing, piece by piece from the prosecution. And of course, the strengths of the defense were, quite very right. And the results or the end product has justified everything that his analysis and discussions have always been. So it's important to be back here, and I'm thankful that we'll be having this conversation this evening. And before that, happy Easter is a blessed one, and I hope that the Almighty God accept all our prayers and fast, and guide us along the straight path, and let every evil against us fall, and of course strengthen all our desires and get us to the levels that we all desire. We hope that all the evil spirits would leave our path, and we will be on the right path of our Lord God, and that he would continue to bless us and guide us, and continue to strengthen us in every aspect of human development. And of course bless us with the wisdoms that we continue to inspire in one way or another, our communities and our, societies and the world at large. So, I'm wishing for you, a very, very, blessed celebrations of, Easter. Of course, it was Good Friday yesterday, but you did not send me any nanbur. And, tomorrow is Easter Sunday, and thereafter is Easter Monday. So it's a whole, couple of days of celebrations, and of course, prayers to the Lord God that, it still gives us life, and we are still out here and then doing one thing or another, all grace to his mercy and kindness. So happy Easter, my brother.
Happy Easter, Doctor. The Nanburu is coming. It's on its way. I
Thank
will
you,
send
Jesus.
for you guys Nanburu. Don't worry. Happy Easter and amen to all your prayers. And just to respond that it has been an absolute pleasure from the very start to join you on this journey. And I'm glad that we have been vindicated based on our analysis and legal reasoning. The court, I would say, almost to a large extent agreed with us, especially with the final analysis we did just before the judgment. It was as if when Justice Jaita was reading the judgment, if I did not believe he had written this judgment way before, I would have thought that he was reading right from our script, because we said, I mean, almost verbatim some of the things that he mentioned when assessing the weight of the prosecution's case and the evidence that was before the court. So, to a large extent, I'm glad that Usenu and his sister were acquitted and discharged, even though that was surrounded by a whole lot of drama. But we thank God that in the meantime, they have been acquitted and discharged, and it means legally and factually that they are not responsible for the killing of the cops. And the question still remains, it's even more important now, that Gambians and people all around the world would like to know who actually killed the cops. and who is responsible for the cop's killing. So thank you again, Honorable Job, for joining this program. It's always a very interactive and learning session. So I hope we would have a good time with all the other members of the panel, including Kex, Sane, Dr. Omar, and yourself. So thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Melvin. I am deeply honored to have you back again on the program. And today we were not going to need much introduction since you were here last week, and I believe a lot of Gambians do not really all of them really recognize you, especially on social media. So without dwelling much on that, I believe Kex is trying to join us, but I'm trying to confirm whether he's with us. But before we get to that, I would just want you to shed light on the court ruling, and then the court ruled that the prosecutors failed to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. And then you have elaborated on this in our last session. You said if Hussein found guilty based on what it meant has to do with reasonable doubt, then you would definitely trying to forfeit yourself from the issues related to the Gambia. And then again, you are vindicated. From your professional view, what do you really think prosecutors, evidences lack witnesses? Sorry, testimonies.
Well, you see, the thing is, where you have an offense or a crime that was committed, and you claim to have witnesses, what you would need, most importantly and most prominently, is a conversion of facts with regards to people who have claimed to have been witnesses to the incident or the event. So, for example, if 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 there were people who would say that they want to stand as witnesses that myself, Dr. Omar, and yourself, Honorable Job, are on this platform talking and doing an analysis, a post analysis on the judgment or acquittal and acquittal of Usenu and his sister, you would expect that if you have four witnesses that can come forward to testify and say that yes, they are witnesses and they have seen that we embarked on this journey to do this analysis, one thing should come out, and that is all these four witnesses should be able to tell that I wore a brown cardigan, a brown sweater with black, you know, kind of, lines or stuff going across, border lines going across my cardigan. They should be able to say that Dr. Amor Malmo is having a headset on, and they should be able to say the same thing for you. Now, it becomes problematic where you are relying on your own witnesses to prove your own case in a situation where the burden of proving that case rests squarely on yourself. That burden did not shift to the accused person. You have that burden of proof, and not only that, you had a very high threshold to reach in order to secure a conviction which is beyond all reasonable doubt. Now, if you have four witnesses, and one of the witnesses says that Mel was wearing a red shirt with a white collared neck, and another person was saying that when they called, Dr. Omar was lying on his bed and they could see the bed head, and that you, Honorable Job, was riding on a horse whilst we were on this platform. Another person comes and says, no, Mel was wearing a brown shirt. Dr. Omar was actually by the poolside. What you have is a diversion of facts rather than having a convergence of the facts. You're having a divergence of the facts. So these people cannot even ascertain that yes, this program held. So now, to the reasonable man in that courtroom, to the reasonable man who is the judge, who is looking at the facts and weighing up, remember, he was not there. He can only make his ruling based on the evidence that is before him, based on the facts that have been brought to his knowledge. And now you have this gentleman who is this honorable judge trying to ascertain if indeed we had this session where we're doing this analysis. But Mr. A just said that I was wearing a red shirt. Mr. B said I was wearing brown. Mr. C said Malmo was by the poolside. And Mr. E said, no, you were sitting there and you are. Now, who do you believe among these individuals? And what can inform the decision of the court, or in this case, the decision of the judge, that indeed we held this program when the people that are supposed to come with a collective positioning of the facts don't even know what it is? Now, let's bring this back to the level of the court. You had witnesses who cannot even identify the accused person. But remember, you had people who had said that they even wrestled with the accused person. You have a situation where they said that they had a watertight sort of evidence where they had the boots that the accused person wore to commit this offense. You come to court and the boot does not even fit the accused person. Remember, the whole Gambia have been sold a false narrative of a confession that took place. A confession that solidified the positioning of the prosecutors. A positioning that solidified the position of the state law office in filing the indictment in the first place. Now you go to court, and this one major chunk and piece of evidence was actually formatted by the investigators themselves, and the prosecutors come to court to tell you that the major piece of evidence which they had relied on prior to the indictment, where within 24 hours a police press release harping on this same piece of evidence, which was very crucial, which was the mobile phone, which was real time, putting the sequence of events together in real time, because a mobile phone in today's world, we all know, can really position a person, either provide them with a tight alibi, or it can, to the contrary, assist the prosecutors in establishing their case. Now you go to court, and for me, and I said this in one of our lives, and in fact, I had to call lawyer Lamin J. Dabo. I said it in the live, and I called him to say that, Mr. Dabo, I do not understand why the most crucial piece of evidence that the police themselves was relying on, and based on what they had said, the prima facie case that was established to necessitate the filing of an indictment on these accused persons was on the basis and credible information gotten from this phone. Now, the police formatted this phone. I don't know if people understand the gravity of such occurrence. What you rely on most, your greatest piece of evidence. In fact, all the intelligence that was allegedly sought in this matter was on the basis of that mobile phone. We all remember the beautiful and flowery messages of the coordinates and the pinging of different towers of the mobile phone that was in active use by the accused person before, during, and after the crime was committed. We remember them mentioning how AfriCell was summoned, how we had coordinates that was plotting the use of the phone until it went beyond the Gambian border. So this was an active phone line that was being pinged by telephone towers as told to us by the police prosecutors, right? Now, all of a sudden, this most crucial piece of evidence was formatted by the police. Why would the police format? Format, you know what format means? It means resetting that phone and bringing it to factory settings. But what the police, and you see, that's why I tell people, when you try to lie against a person or try to frame a person, you have to be very smart. You have to be smarter than the person, and smarter than nature, and smarter than God. Because what people don't understand, when you formatted that phone, you do not format the third party correspondence of that phone. So even though the police formatted the phone, could not rely on the major piece of evidence that they claimed they had, but Usenu was able to establish a strong watertight alibi by the fact and virtue of that same phone, based on his conversations with a third party whose phone was not formatted. And in their defense, a watertight alibi was produced that you cannot possibly be shooting three police officers in the middle of the night at a junction and be having a beautiful WhatsApp chat messages contemporaneously. It is not humanly possible. Now, on the basis of that alone, forget about the shoes that did not fit. Forget about the discrepancies with regards to witness statements and and the state's handling of the evidence that they said they relied on. Just the fact that a watertight alibi, in the sense that there was a contemporaneous conversation ongoing at the same time, simultaneously, as these individuals were being shot, it's a watertight alibi that did not put the accused person in the position of the occurrence of the crime. And now, when you talk to a court of law and you talk to people that have got reasonableness in their thoughts and in their thinking, that alone is enough to create a shadow of doubt in the minds of a reasonable, objective person, that how is it possible that this man can be shooting at people, wrestling a gardener on the ground or some security agent, running, jumping over a fence with a military style book, and then you're sitting down and having a conversation with a lady somewhere in Europe. On the basis of that alone, you cannot secure a conviction because the threshold is that high, beyond all reasonable doubt. So I'll let you come on. I hope I've answered the question in that regard. And then I'll let you
Yeah, yeah,
continue and we'll
yeah.
continue.
That was deeply clear. So I will allow Doctor to put forward his question if you have any before I jump into the second one. Doc.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Job. There are a lot of things that are the code, but I would just try to ask a question and then just listen to Melville to give us an in-depth thought of about what whatever had happened. I've said a lot about this case already, and I'm getting really fatigued. But first, like we've discussed extensively on this, and my problem is not to get on what exactly did happen, but what happened, the aftermath. We've seen the regime rearresting Usainu and Ami after acquittal and discharge. What was your thought, or what's your reaction to that act? And how legal or illegal was that act? And what exactly would you think should have been done, legally or otherwise? Mel.
I think you have Kex joining you guys. So do you want to speak to him, Honorable, to introduce himself, and then I can continue with Kex's question?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, it's good to have you. I know you have some technical stuff down there, but you are very clear. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ali, for having me. This is a pleasure. And also my greeting to Mel. It's a pleasure to share the same platform with you all the time. Malmo, thank you once again for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Kex. We are deeply honored to have you. Yeah, here with us. Mel, you can go ahead with the question. Look forward to you.
Yeah, so basically you need to understand a few things. Now, when a person has been acquitted and discharged, what it does mean in law, both legally and factually, is that that person is not guilty of the offense that brought him to court in the first instance, and that the law had deemed that this person is innocent of the offense. That's basically what it means in simple, clear terms. However, we also must understand that within criminal procedure or even civil procedure, there is what you call the hierarchy of the courts. And the state law office, be it the police or the attorney general's chambers, have a right to appeal a judgment that they are dissatisfied with. So that is their inherent right. They have that right to go on appeal. However, the law has prescribed certain procedures by which or on which you can appeal a particular judgment that you're dissatisfied with. One, you have to establish that the judge, the trial judge, had an error in law. Error in law, as as if the facts that was presented before the court and the interpretation of the law with regards to that fact was done erroneously. At least it was applied wrongly. That's the first instance. The second instance is that the trial judge had an error of facts, as in the facts that was presented to the trial judge was not looked at in adequately, or probably he overlooked a certain fact, a certain piece of evidence that was key or that was crucial. And the third aspect is because the the prosecutor feels that, or the prosecution, not the prosecutor, but the prosecution, the entire team, feel that the matter that the judge just looked into was not looked into in the totality of the evidence as presented, and therefore in the application of the law and the facts vis-a-vis the totality of the evidence that was presented to the court was misapplied erroneously. These are the grounds for which one can appeal a substantive judgment from a lower court to a higher threshold of court, which is the Court of Appeal in this instance. Now, the state law office was in their right to do this. So that was clear. They made the intention in court that they were dissatisfied with the judgment orally, and that they were going to appeal the judgment. It is their right. It is for everybody to appeal a judgment. Even in civil matters, you're not happy with the judgment, you can appeal. But that is one thing. But there's one thing that people have to understand, and what we need to get clear. Appealing a judgment does not. I mean, the other day I was having a conversation with my auntie, and I've been having this conversation with her for years and trying to explain certain things to her. Appealing a judgment does not set aside the substantive judgment of that court, of the lower court. So just because the state law office is putting out an intention to appeal the judgment, it does not mean Usenu and his sister does not enjoy the fullest fruits of the judgment of acquittal. That judgment of acquittal can only be set aside by a court of competent jurisdiction, and in this instance, the Court of Appeal, which has a higher ranking than the High Court. So there's no sort of legal process aside of a court of competent jurisdiction that would set aside the appeal, that the acquittal and discharge of Usenu and his brother. So even if you have an appeal from the state law office that would take another 3, 4, 5 years, that judgment that was done by Justice Jaite and read out in open court, and his seal was affixed to that judgment, it subsists, it stands, it is unshakable, it is not shaken, and it would not be shaken until a court of superior jurisdiction sets it aside. And therefore, regardless of the appeal, regardless of the grounds of appeal, regardless of the merits of the appeal, Usenu and his sisters have been acquitted and discharged. And it means, in simple terms, they did not commit the alleged crime or offense that they were charged for. So that is simple. So we move to the next year. The next year is a stay of execution. This is common sense. It is not law. It is language. It is logic. To stay an execution. What is an execution? An execution is the performance of a judgment, a performance of an order of the court, the performance of a directive of the court as prescribed by the court, as laid down by law. That is an execution. You have a judgment to say that this person is acquitted and discharged. This person can no longer be in your custody. This person can no longer be in remand. Now, when you go and follow the procedures and you have the release warrant that is given to the institution of the prisons, and these individuals were released, the performance of the execution of that order has been completed. Upon their release, the order, the directive, the ruling, the judgment has been perfected because you have already executed. Now, you cannot logically stay what has already been executed, because once it has been executed, it no longer exists. And therefore, there is nothing to stay. You can only make an application for a stay of execution prior to the execution of that order which you are trying to stay. What stay means is you are telling the courts that please do not perform this particular function, do not carry out this particular order, do not carry out this particular ruling, stay it based on the appeal that we are making, and we would like for you to stay this execution, which is the release of Usenu, to enjoy the fruits of that judgment until the matter is concluded by the Court of Appeal. But once that execution has already been perfected, in the sense that Usenu and his sister had already been released, there was nothing legally or factually to execute. And therefore, the police rearresting Usenu based on the same charges that they have just been cleared for or by a court of competent jurisdiction amounts to a crime by the police, because they are violating the rights of Usenu, and the detention is equal to false imprisonment. So therefore, what has happened now, if Usenu decides to take the state to court, it is the state that is culpable for committing a crime by holding Usenu and his sister hostage by false imprisonment on an order that does not exist, that has already been perfected. Now the question is, who gave the instructions for Usenu and his sister to be rearrested and taken back to Mile 2, where no fresh charges have been filed, that is different from the charges that was before the court that Justice Jaite has already adjudicated upon? Remember, you have the principle of double jeopardy. So they cannot charge Usenu, they cannot try Usenu or his sisters for the same crime based on the same facts that was just determined by a court of competent jurisdiction. So the only way Usenu and his sisters could have been detained, could have been charged, is if there is another charge, a new charge that is factually and legally different from what they have just been freed from. So now, the question again is, who allowed for Usenu and the sister to be rearrested? What that means is two things. The police has acted arbitrarily. They have acted beyond and above their powers. They have violated the order of the court. They have violated the sanctity of the ruling of the Court of Justice Jaite. They have put an affront on the judiciary. They have challenged the independence of the judiciary. They have actually slapped the rule of law on the face, and they have said to the judiciary that we do not recognize your independence, we do not recognize your authority. And that is why the police, the state law office, had to go back and withdraw the motion, the ex parte motion that they filed for stay of execution, because they knew factually that Gambians in this age are aware. And people knew that that stay of execution motion that was filed was a completely abuse of process, because there was nothing to be stayed by way of an execution, because the order had already been executed. So that is my answer to
All right,
that.
thank you very much. Actually, I don't think I would not even refer to it as, Hussein was released and rearrested. He was not really released and rearrested. He was handed over by the prison officers to the police, because the prison officers brought him to the gate and handed him over to the police, who kind of criminally, kind of, you know, just got him and then took him wherever they wanted to go. So that was not a release. That was just a handover, a deliberate, conniving criminals, conniving among themselves, communicating and just saying, come, let us hand over this person to you. So he was never released. And just like you said, that is just how abusive our law enforcement officers are. And of course, how the police and the government of the Gambia seems to, kind of, obstruct the deliverance of justice in our own, courts. But of course, we know how to go about those things and what exactly to do. But Kex, you've been following this. Like, first, let me say a very big thank you to you. I think if anybody requires a commendation on this matter, it's you. You've put your resources, you put your time, you've left your family for several hours. You made sure at every time you are out there to follow this case, not just to inform the public, but as well, to know every detail of what was happening. You were in touch with everybody. Every Gambian was always eager when this case is back in court. What is Kex writing? You had, kind of made yourself, the most reliable and dependable person, on matters relating to, this case. So, I personally am very grateful to you. I don't say anything until I hear from you, not on the phone, not, like at every level. We kept in touch on every aspect of this case, and everybody just waits to read from you. What were the outstanding moments for you when it comes to this case? What are the summary of the events that definitely made you feel like, wow, it's just unimaginable? What were those moments for you all throughout the trial? Yeah, that's how the internet is in Gambia. That is war in Iran, and we are losing. Nawek is now, giving people some whatever.
I
Awela
know.
internet,
So I
ila
don't.
internet we tane na
You,
kan na disla.
sir, you get me? Are you getting me? Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm I'm changing my
Yes, we can hear you now, loud and clear.
position. I don't know whether now you are getting me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, uh, all right. That's fine. So, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I think there's no better way it can be analyzed like our brother did just now, Melvin. He have given us actually the gist of everything, how the state acted in this whole issue. So, like you said, your question, back to your question. For me, this is a case that is very, very interesting. I think I started this case since the first day Usain Oboja was actually arraigned before the magistrate court in Carnifing, where he was charged. And according to the magistrate, because of lack of uh, uh, jurisdiction, the matter was transferred to the High Court, Special Criminal Division, and it was assigned to Justice Chaide. And the whole trial comments. It gets interesting when a defense actually pick up its case, because at the initial stage, it was more of the prosecution explaining what actually transferred from PW1 up to PW13. So more of is more into the cross examination, but it doesn't get interesting until the defense pick up their case and brought up the some of the evidence or exhibits that they rely on. And this first instance is when they tested the shoes that they allegedly said Hussein wore were on the night of the incident. So when the shoes was actually put into Husseino's shoes, it could not fit. So it becomes more interesting. That has been a very interesting part. Also, when his mobile phone was brought before the court and an expert was brought to unlock the phone and found out that the phone was totally format. And Usaino has given this or have said this during his narration that his phone was formatted by Detective Ibuso. But at the instant force, maybe we doubt whether that was actually whether that was true until when an expert came before the court and attempt to actually unlock the mobile, and it was found out that the mobile was actually formatted because Usaino provided his password, his Gmail, and everything. Found out that the phone was completely formatted. This is also an event that was very, very interesting. It goes more interesting when actually the superior, the three state officials, that's Ibrahim G. Sankare, Mr. Jeng, and that of the deputy, former deputy inspector general of police. And these people denies saying certain statement that the defense actually accused them of labeling Useno as a rebel. Also, he works with the UDP, and they know the people who are behind him, the monies and the everything. They deny all these things until when the video was played and open court. So when the video played, we tend to actually hear exactly what these people were saying, contrary to what they have actually denied that they didn't say. So it becomes more interesting to that angle. Moving forward, regarding about the ballistic expert when he came and testify, and he was cross-examined whether actually he was able to uh, link Usenu to this gun, and if yes, how did he link Usenu? And it went up to an extent that he explained that they could not actually do the fingerprint, and why they could not do the fingerprint because the gun was exposed to the sun, and it's also it fall rain falls gone, so they could not actually trace the fingerprint. So then people tend to question whether actually there was a rain from that day of the to the day the gun was recovered. Because if you look at the interval when the gun was recovered and the crime is just a matter of 3 or 4 days when the gun was recovered. So people were within that days there was no actual rain. So if you said it was exposed to the sun, we can accept that. But when you say that because of it rain falls on it, then people will tend to question because they were calculating. They said there was no rain within that. But sometimes you never know. It can rain in Serekunda and it will not rain in Jaba or Sukuda traffic light. But this were some of the allegations that happens. And also regarding about the CCTV footage, when that issue was actually raised, regarding about an officer came and picked up this thing, and this was said in court. And since it's the state's case, I think that anything that will help to establish the killer should be those things. So at the end of the day, we didn't see all those things. So these things become very, very interesting. But these are some of key highlights that actually shows or also put the prosecution will actually able to secure conviction in this case. So since at initial stage, people then start to make their minds that actually these are some of the key things that you could have linked Usenu, because there is no person who testify and give a direct description of Usenu or a direct evidence of identifying Usenu as a person. And the 6 people that they rely on when Usenu was paraded before them, also those people didn't identify Usenu. So we thought that the victim who survived will be the better person to identify Usenu. But unfortunately, when that person comes to the court to also say that this is the first time he didn't recognize Usenu at the crime scene, and he was only shown a picture during the hospital. This were the key moments that for me during the trial.
All right, thank you very much, Kex. I think that's quite clear. Melville, I have this question for you. Clearly, one of the things that I felt was really a highlight during this case is Mama Jabi, who is the lady believed to have recorded Hussein, and he had confessed to whatever nonsense they had said. But the DPP came to court and said Mama's audio is lost because Mama's phone got spoiled. And Mama said, oh, I lost the audio because I removed my SIM card and, of course, deleted my WhatsApp. This audio was circulated all over the country. Is it the prosecution's responsibility to lie to the court? Is it the prosecution's responsibility or the investigator's responsibility to delete or to format a suspect's phone? Is it how our criminal justice system works in the Gambia that is a single narrative prosecution and incarceration, or deliberately putting false allegations on people, prosecute them on false allegations, and the state not seeking justice, impartially, but trying to seek a conviction, either false or right? What do you make up of Mama's audio lost? Because that is like a defining moment for me. Because that should have been a piece of evidence that, of course, he confessed to it. Bring the the audio in. But we also saw the defense bringing the audio, and of course the prosecution vehemently denying, trying to block the admissibility of their own audio. What do you make up of that?
Well, I'm sure you can remember initially when we had this discussion, I did mention that. In fact, I had said I have never seen an instance where the prosecution would be relying on a crucial piece of evidence that should have been submitted through their star witness, in this instance, Mama Jabi, who I believe is a celebrated liar, who I believe has no integrity and whatsoever, and they cannot be relied upon. And then saying or claiming that the mobile phone was formatted or WhatsApp was deleted and this piece of evidence was lost. The fact is, the prosecution lied because everyone with a common sense and with logic knows that where a person comes forward to allege a confession, the first thing that would have been extracted from her phone would have been the alleged confession. You cannot file an indictment, you cannot conduct an investigation without having that key piece of evidence, which was factually the reason why the same individual, Mama Jabi, was given $1 million bounty, in the effect that he led the police or the state to the capturing of Usenu. What was established before Mama Jabi? Now, forget about the law. Forget about the law. Forget about the case. Let's put it aside. Let's do a different analysis. What necessitated? What did Mama Jabi give to the state in order to attract the $1 million? Remember, the only nexus between Mama Jabi and this Usenu case is the alleged confession that Usenu made to her. On what basis was Mama Jabi given a $1 million bounty? It was on the basis of the alleged confession. Now, when Useni was making this confession, was Mama Jabi with other witnesses? No. She said she recorded Usenu. Now, when you do a preemptive analysis, the first thing that would be established, that's why I say most of these people are not smart. And sometimes I think that is why they hate me, they don't like me, because they don't think outside the box. They've tried for a number of years to put me in a cage. But the honest truth is they are not smart. Because Mama Jabi, what preempted Mama Jabi to record Usenu on the basis of a confession that had not even taken place yet? This is common sense. If you are recording somebody, it is because you already have a premeditated notion of the action of that person, or what that person is capable of doing, or what that person is likely to do. For me to record a Dr. Omar, for me to record a Keksane, for me to record Alijo, they must have given me a reason where I distrust the fact that they would deny the occurrence of a particular transaction or a particular act. This is Mama Jabi, who has never met an Usainu Bojang before. Why did you record that conversation? Or at what stage did you start to record that conversation? Now, on the basis of that conversation, you were able to convince the entire state architecture, the entire security apparatus, that you have a murderer, a criminal in your possession. What did you give to them? It must have been the confession. On the basis of that confession is what would have necessitated the police investigation. Now, if the recording was lost and Mama had formatted his phone, which is a blatant lie, the police that investigated the crime should be in possession of that confessional tape or audio. It is common sense, it's logic. If not, there was nothing that necessitated the charge or the indictment or even the investigation of Hussein. Now, where Mama claims that she has lost one key crucial piece of evidence, that particular evidence is what earned you 1 million Gambian dollars. It was the last piece of evidence that you would lose. But let's take it remotely that yes, you lost it. But what happened to what is it that you gave? I'm sure if President Barrow put down his money and put down that bounty, he must have listened to that confession. He ain't gonna give $1 million for something he does not know. So where is that confession? If every Gambian, including myself that does not reside in the Gambia, have listened to that alleged confession, in fact, some of the time I didn't make sense, I didn't understand. I had to send it to somebody to transcribe it to English so that I can understand. I was in possession of it. Every single Gambian was in possession of it. It was played on social media. For you to stupidly go to court and say it is lost. Debo is a fool. You're taking the court and you're taking the entire Gambian for ransom. You're telling the people that they're all dotards.
Oh man,
You're telling them they don't have a thinking capacity. You're telling them that they're fools. They're senseless.
But again,
But wait, let me finish this. But
okay.
let me finish this. But forget about all of that. The defense has offered you the confessional tape. You say you've lost it, no? This is one crucial piece of evidence to cement your case.
All right.
The defense, in a most rare occasion, if you follow criminal law and criminal
Yes.
litigation all over the world, in a rare circumstances, they tell you, boy, don't worry, I'll give it to you. It's lost. You lost it. I have it. Take it. And then you're fighting in court for its admissibility. What really was the basis of your investigation? What really was the basis of your indictment? What really was the basis of the alleged second confession that happened in the presence of the police? And all of a sudden, you're fighting tooth and nail for the admissibility of that piece of evidence. That is ludicrous. It doesn't make sense. It defies logic. Because that is what you need. You've lost it. I've given it to you. You don't have nothing like trial by ambush anymore in our courts. It doesn't happen. You want to prove your case. You say this guy is innocent. But the question is, okay, I'll stop there. I'll let you continue before I move to the next.
I think that's clear. That was basically what I wanted to ask the entire state machinery, an entire police force, people with high level of intellectual, potentials, and of course with great knowledge and experience and expertise. Of course, all the way to the seat of president. That, oh, I have the confession. Oh, you are giving 1 million. Where is the confession? Oh, it's lost. Yeah, that's something else. But Kex, I want to ask you this. You know a lot about this confession of a thing. We had to talk sometimes in the middle of the night. Sometimes I'm calling you very, very odd hours, and we had to make sure we produce this audio and all of that. And for the state to try to deny the admissibility of their own audio, and force for the defense to actually, no, for the prosecution to deny the admissibility of their own audio, but for the defense to be willing to present the audio of the prosecution that they said, actually possesses the criminal confession of this particular person. How was it to convince the defense to actually bring this audio to court? Because I do know a couple of people did say to me, oh no, the burden of proof lies on the prosecution. And I remember having this conversation with you. I want this audio presented to court. Do everything possible that these people bring this audio to court. How was it like? How was it to see the DPP trying to deny the admissibility of this audio? And what exactly do you think was the reason for that?
So conversation on 7 prior for that. We wanted this audio to part of they refused to actually bring it into in court. We expected that the prosecution will be the better position to actually produce this audio in court, since this is the confession, and by bringing that audio will have actually cement their case. So I thought that prosecution will bring, but after the hearing from PW1 up to the last PW and all the exhibits that they have tendered, almost 33 exhibits, there's none of these audios there. So when defense opened their case, we had this conversation. Okay, since they said Hussein confessed it to Mama, and Mama came to court and said that, so defense deemed it necessary that they will bring this audio, even though before to convince the defense, it was actually a hard time. For them, they thought that it was only this other side that was proof. For them, they will not help them to establish their case. So since they didn't actually bring it, so, but we deem it necessary that it has to come. So, actually, eventually, it was brought by the defense, and they tendered the document, forced the transcription. They disagree with the transcription of the audio, the manner and the way it was transcribed. They said that there was nowhere in the audio where it said that Mama Jabi Hussein, because when the people who were the transcribers of the court, when they are transcribing, knowing that it's Mama, a female was speaking, so they will put before the whatever she said, they will put their Mama Jabi and two dots to indicate that it's Mama now speaking. Then from Mama is Usenum. So that was the first objection that the prosecution made, that there was nowhere in the audio that says that Mama is speaking or is speaking. So why will the transcribers actually bring tag names to this? So that was the first argument. But common sense to everybody was, of course, know that this part is speaking, this part is Hussein is speaking. So it's just to help the court to actually know that this is the person speaking, this is the one speaking, so that when they are going to rely on those things as an exhibit, then the court will have a better understanding of the audio. But DPP objected that, they asked the transcribers to just transcribe the audio as it is, that they should not add even a single dot. Like they should just write the wordings that have been said there. It was exactly how it was, because it has to come in the language of the court, and we know that the language of the Gambian court is English. So it was transcribed to that level, and it came back again. So after the transcription, then Lami J Dabo, applied to put it into evidence, and that was the time the DPP objected to the audio, saying that at first it was not part of the intended to rely on. So that was an argument. So, and the judge has to judge, this is their case, and if they can bring anything now is a defense, and if you know that any audio that will help us in terms of establishing the truth, like in terms of the how do they call this in the evidence as the what there's this terms that they use in the evidence as the weight, whether it will I actually forget at this time. So, but they rely on evidence that the audio is very, very important in terms of this case, and based on that one, they will accept it. So that was the first hurdle that they crossed. So, but the DPP was seriously in denial of that thing. He even wanted to appeal for the court actually admitting that audio into evidence, that they have the intention to appeal that one. But I don't know, as they go on, he decided not to follow up that issue. But he went up to an extent that he wanted to actually even file an appeal at the appellate court to actually say that the judge admitted an audio that was actually not part of the list of exhibits that the defense wanted to rely on. So this
So,
was, but
here, let me pause you a little bit. So the prosecution was wanting to go to a superior court to deny the admissibility of their own audio on the basis of which they even arrested Usainu.
yeah,
Allahu
that's
Akbar.
Because
that's how
dog, the
how
audio was very clear. There was
Allahu.
nothing for them there. Obviously, I mean,
Okay, now let's put a pause to that. I have this question when it comes to the car. There is this vehicle that the bystander said belongs to the perpetrator of the crime. Now, this was actually, part of the mapping of the police when identifying the location of the case, and of course, it was part of their whole whatever story. But they deliberately omitted it when they came to court. For whatever reason, one of their witnesses mistakenly mentioned it, and J. Dabo indicated to us in one of his interviews that the defense was not even supplied with some of the information. So first, what I've noticed is the gun cannot be subjected to DNA, a concealment. Or only 3 bullets came out of the bullet. The soldiers did not know who the senior man was. Mama's audio is lost. Usenu is a rebel. All of those things all fall short. What do you make up of the concealment upon concealment? This gun up till date has never been seen in any public space. For whatever reason, they brought a gun in court, but in their press conference, they told us they never said they actually got any gun. What do
yeah.
you generally make up of this car that was omitted, and who does this car belong to?
Sure. Yeah. For me, that was an interesting part because at the end of the day, it was never mentioned. And for me, when it was not mentioned, but at the time of the trial, when it was actually mentioned, I thought that the state will take it upon themselves if they are trying to establish the truth, because
Right,
all vehicles are registered under the police. That
right.
you cannot drive a vehicle without actually having a number plate. And we know the process of having a number plate. They have to take the serial number of the car, they have to take your document who is actually applying to have this number plate. They have to take your ID cards and other important documents, every information about you. So it will be very, very easy to trace out who actually owned that car. Why was the car at that venue at that time? Because you are trying to establish the truth. Who is the real killer? So you could see that there are so many time concealment of actually evidence in this whole trial. Look at the CCTV camera, for example. This is a place where they can compel, like JDABO compel Peter West Coast to come before the court and produce that audio, like Kerfado and other people, by way of a subpoena. by applying those things. So the state could have superior anybody to produce anything that would have helped them to establish the truth. But not only that, the state has brought earlier, they mentioned 24 witnesses that would have testified, but we only see 13. And out of the 24, we know that 6 are their staff witnesses. But all those 6 staff witnesses never appear in court. Why those people didn't appear in court? Why in the first place actually putting them in the bill of indictment that you will rely on this number of people? But at the middle of the trial, we didn't see all these people that came and testified. Why? Do you think that maybe what you told them to say they disagree with that, or you think that okay they will destroy your case, or what was the change of mind? So these are certain things that you know that people tend to question after, because at the initial when the case was going, we could not go into all these things because we don't want to actually interfere in the judicial process. But now that these things happens, we can sit down and analyze so many things that happen. Mama Jabi's audio, for example, this was your biggest evidence that you could have relied on. Likewise, the issue, you know that it's a legal requirement that if somebody is giving a confession, you recorded him. Cham said that when he was coming with Usainu from Senegal, Usainu confessed to him in the car that he was the killer. And a seasoned investigator for almost 20 something years, you know that when people are giving this confession, you want to have a material evidence, because at the end of the day, what will happen is that it will be your words and their words in court. Who is the witness? So, but you can rely on something. When the Hussein was confessing, you know that the Anti-Terrorism Act mandated you to actually record when people are giving a confession. You didn't do that. Why? And you said that this guy was the killer, and these are the evidence that you will rely on in the court. Also, Usaino's phone. You said that Usaino was actually at Sukuda Javan because that's what the the deputy Inspector General have told us, is that they were monitoring his calls, they were doing everything. So why not you bring those print out to say that those terminologies that you were giving us, these are the evidence. Usain was moving from one place to another, and here he spotted at Sukuda Jaban traffic light, and the signal they speak Usain at Sukuda Jaban traffic light is here, like Lamin Jedabo did in his official footage, like he did in the 3 soldiers telephone communication, to establish whether they have passed beyond Sukuda Jaban traffic light or they were within Sukuda Jaban traffic light. And according to the print out from this GSM, it indicates that these people didn't pass Sukuda Jaban traffic light. They meet at Yundum and they were communicating among themselves when they were actually coming. So 2-3 people that are together, why will you communicate? So this will help you to establish your case. Why not the state to have all the machineries in place that they can use? They can use everything they have. So there were so many concealment of evidence in terms of from the prosecution side, since at the start of the case, actually they are not actually trying to actually bring any evidence because it's not there. That's what will you say? Because at the end of the day, that's what happens. The judge said that they were nothing. Their whole investigation was more of intimidation, more of harassment, incompetence, improper investigation. These were the things that the judge said. That the people that should have even helped you to establish certain truth, you were harassing them, you were torturing them, you were detaining them.
All right, thank you very much, Kex. I think after that marathon, I would ask Melville this question. The state was not seeking justice. They were seeking a conviction to conceal the truth. What be your reaction to that?
That is what I've said from the very start, and that is what I believe. But then again, we need to understand. I've not seen anyone mention this yet, but I think it's a fundamental thing that I have to say that needs some thorough looking into. So basically, I do not quite understand. I don't agree. I don't see the reason whereby a person would be acquitted and discharged, and for any reason whatsoever, there is a legal procedure whereby the state can apply or make an application in court for that person to be remanded in custody because the state has an intention to appeal a particular judgment. But what most Gambians don't know is that we have a new Criminal Procedure Act 2025 that was passed in our parliament that actually provides for this. Section 322 to 325 thereabout provides for situation and instances where the state office, the DPP, can actually make an application to the court to have a person that has been acquitted and discharged to be kept in remand, even though the law says in exceptional circumstances. But I do not believe there are any circumstances that are exceptional to the extent of taking away the liberty and freedom of an individual, which is a constitutionally given right of a person after you have subjected them to 3 years of rigorous legal drama, where the courts have found on the weight of the evidence presented that these people, these individuals, are not guilty of the offense. The question we should be asking ourselves, which is very key and paramount, what is our parliament doing when they vote into passing such laws and making such an act become law and binding? Are they really scrutinizing these acts? Are they going, you know, like from provision to provision? Do these individuals know that in passing these legislations that they themselves can be culpable at a time? Because you can charge a parliamentarian for something, a court can acquit and discharge them. You have a DPP who has a political instruction and can prove to, what if Justice Jaita was not a seasoned criminal judge? What if Justice Jaita could have allowed for the DPP's submission, his application to have them kept in remand, pending the filing of an appeal? You know what would have happened? They would never have enjoyed the fruits of that judgment. And I don't think our parliament was right, and they should be held culpable for passing such a law that is now within. And this is something I thought I would say because I've been listening to the debate. Nobody has mentioned it. And I think it is something that we need to look into. Because most of the time, everybody is now talking about the principle of separation of powers. Everybody is talking about the overreach of the executive. But what is our parliamentarians doing? Our lawmakers, what are they doing in having certain laws being enacted and being legislated and making them come into effect in our country? Because that is what the DPP was relying on when they made that application before Justice Jaite. However, Justice Jaite refused the application and said, no, I will grant them bail. But what if Justice Jaite entertained the application of the state? So in having these conversations, which I think is educative, we should also look beyond the box and also talk to our lawmakers who obviously such an act, I'm sure, was brought by the Minister of Justice. They make a lot of noise here and there, but they pass these things into law. But these things are taking away the fundamental rights and freedoms of individuals. And the state is using it as an abuse of process to circumvent the law. And that is what would have happened, and it would have been legal. Now, going back to your question, the fact is, we have a problem in the Gambia. The Minister of Justice is also the Attorney General. However, by virtue of his hat as a Minister of Justice, it is a political appointment. His position as a minister that gives him the right to sit in cabinet is political because he is answerable to his principal, who is the president. So, sometimes we make discussions, but we are not honest in going into the substance of the discussion. Who is the principal of the Minister of Justice, Dauda Jallo? It is President Barrow. That is why the Minister of Justice advises the president on all issues of legality in the Gambia. But he is the principal. Now, the DPP, according to law, is only answerable to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General. Now, where you have an instance in the shooting of the police officers, where a government spokesperson that has no business in police matters or police investigation comes on a national radio to talk about an alleged accused person, even before the establishing of facts, even before the police submits its reports and its findings, to state that this man was a Casamas rebel, this man was a UDP member, this man was seen at a UDP protest of Young's Dabo, blah, 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 and blah. That is a political undertone. Because when the government spokesperson speaks, his utterances are policy statements of the government. I know he came back to say he was misled, but when he spoke as a government spokesperson, he was speaking on behalf of the government and the representative of the executive. And I dare say a representative of the president. Now, where you have a political undertone of an offense that was allegedly committed by someone in the killing of these police officers, the DPP, who is answerable to a cabinet minister, that is answerable to the president, who the government spokesperson works for, it tells you clearly the instruction from the Minister of Justice was a political instruction to the Director of Public Prosecution, the DPP. So when that matter went to court, it was not to establish truth, it was not to seek justice, it was a political instruction from the high office of the president, coming right down through to the Minister of Justice, giving instructions to the DPP, go to court at all costs, secure a conviction, and give us a reason whereby we can ban the United Democratic Party by virtue of the fact that they had already stated that this presumably assassin was a UDP person. Now, put a hold on that. Juxtapose this to the utterances of the president, where he said he was dissatisfied with the court ruling and said that Usainu Dabo knew something or his hands were not clean. So you can tell, in just by putting the facts together, that this is a political case that had a political instruction with a political undertone, that the outcome of the court, which looked at dispensation of justice equitably and fairly, did not go well with what was supposed to be a political prosecution, a political indictment to secure a political conviction for political reasons at the advantage of the executive. And that is why the president, who is supposed to be the chief guardian of the doctrine of separation of powers, respecting the sanctity of the judiciary, respecting the independence of the courts, respecting the rule of law, would go on to say that they still believe that it is Usenu that killed those police officers, even though a court of competent jurisdiction has declared that they are innocent of the alleged offense. That in itself is a violation of the principles of separation of powers, because it was an executive overreach on the independence of the judiciary, and by extension, putting a dagger at the heart of the rule of law in the Gambia by the chief custodian of the rule of law, who should ensure that the rule of law thrives in that country. And by all accounts, if Gambia was any serious country, Dawda Jallo has no position in government. Because not only was this case political, Not only was it given a political undertone from even before the trial commenced and even before Usainu was formally charged or even before Usainu was brought before a court of competent jurisdiction or an indictment filed, it was already given a political undertone where a government spokesperson would sit on West Coast radio and make utterances on behalf of the government, where he even stated that he was advised, he was informed, and the president was informed as well. Now, this brings you to the question of the instruction that the DPP was given. And that is why you will realize that the DPP was not in court to establish the truth or seek the truth. The DPP had a responsibility and an instruction to secure a conviction of Usainu Bojang at no whatever cost. Now, let's look at this differently. If Usainu Bojang did not have Omar Malmo, if Omar Malmo did not have a Keksane, if Keksane did not have a Melville, if we did not sit and talk about this matter and educate Gambians and bring Gambians to understand the legality, the nuances of this case, if Usainu was somebody that did not have that advantage or that objective, what would have happened? If a lawyer Lamin J. Dabo did not step up, imagine where Usainu was defended by legal aid because he could not afford a competent lawyer. Legal aid is funded by the state. Would they have been as rigorous as lawyer Lamin J. Dabo, who put his life, integrity, and professionalism at stake to ensure that Usainu is defended to the very last? What would have happened if the alarm bell was not sounded and the youths took to the streets in protest that Usainu must go home? He would have still been in remand. That is not justice. And we need to understand the interplay in Gambia, that most of the time, the indictments that are filed in court are not because the prosecution or the DPP's office is seeking justice. They are seeking to appease because they have an instruction from above. But is it really justice that they seek? Do they go to these courts to establish the truth? And that is the question that Gambians should ask. What sort of investigation took place that arguably informed the prosecutor that indeed Usainu committed this offense? And then it begs the question, if Usainu did not commit the offense, and there was no evidence tying Usainu to the crime or his sister, what was the state doing in concealing or going after a thorough investigation that would lead to the apparent person that killed the cops? And a reasonable man can only come to one conclusion. One conclusion, which is what everybody is saying, and which is why they want to go after lawyer Lamin J. Dabo. And that is they failed to follow the thread and the lead of the actual killer of the cops and went against an innocent man because they know who killed the cops.
Job.
I was trying to play President Barrow's video, whereby he was affirmatively, mentioning that they still believe that this is the guy, even if they don't even have any, material evidence to substantiate that. But the video is not really clear. But I just want to ask Kex this question. Kexane, I just want us to talk about the D-Day. After the judge has given his verdict, and subsequently the celebration started, all kind of the country, calls started coming up. People started commending you, doctor, and some of you people that have been in front line talking about this issue. Walk us through, why is it that Usenu was not released that very day? And then we have realized the second day, like Malmo said, he was handed over to the police. And then your video went viral. You were updating the people what was going on there. Can you take us through or run us through the D-Day? Why was it not released? And then the second day, why was it, being handed over to the police at that level?
Oh, we can't hear
So
you. Good.
yeah, so thank you. Yeah, before actually answering your that question, I'll just come to the issues that were raised by Melvin. Spot on in regards to saying that the DPP or all these things is political, and DPP was taxed or assigned to make sure that actually Usenu, he didn't go there just for justice, but to make sure that Usenu is convicted at all costs. And the entire trial, you will see that there was no other person, because normally state will have other cases that the DPP will be handling, but sometimes when it's absent, somebody will step in and prosecute this case. But the entire trial of Usenu was actually tried by the DPP, and even when DPP was even sick and he could not attend the proceeding has to be adjourned until Justice Jada has to make a position that the office of the DPP is full of competent lawyers that can try in his absence, and that's why we have an office of DPP of different lawyers. So, and he normally comes with people to the courts when this case was going on. So, with those people, when that he is absent, those people will step in. But why when DPP in the case will not actually proceed? So he even went and threatened and said that if the DPP didn't come the next adjourned date, he will foreclose a prosecution case and ask the defense to open their case. So that before the next adjournment, then we saw the DPP coming in. So it was only the DPP that was actually prosecuting this case. But also what he mentioned about in the event where a state will say that, okay, we want to appeal and we want somebody to be remanded under custody pending the appeal that we do. This is happening. There's a case that I was actually following by the name Ismail Andong. Ismail Andong was acquainted and discharged by Justice Achibong. When Achibong acquainted and discharged, the state immediately stood up and applied that they are going to appeal. They are dissatisfied with the judgment and they will appeal. And they asked Ismail Andon to be remanded on custody pending their filing of this application. Until up to today, when Achibong left here, is almost like now we are counting the 2 years. They have not filed any appeal before the court. Following up, often even when they know that I'm so curious about that case, they went and put they went and said they file a notice of appeal. But there's a time frame in terms of when to file an appeal when a judgment was done. Whether that time was elapsed, so I need to call Lamin LS Camara to tell him that actually I think we need to intervene in this guy's case, because I went to the office of the Solicitor General. We were discussing on certain issues, and he gave an example of Ismail Andon's case, because somebody was asking for a compensation because he was wrongfully charged and he was kept in remand, and after the judgment was delivered and he was acquitted and discharged. So he wrote to the Ministry of Justice and he were invited for a discussion, and he made an example of this thing. He said that if they keep on compensating, anyone will come, and he made an example of Ismail Andon's case. You see, we lose the case, but we went and appeal, just to make sure that we keep him mile too, because at the end of the day, when we leave him, he might go and file a sue against the state or ask for a compensation because of his time that was wasted. So you could see that these are some of the taxes that they do. So if they have succeeded in Usenu, that it didn't have the people of Malemo, like I said, like the people of Melvin, the people of Lamin Dabo, that makes sure that every legal requirement was done in this case. Usenu, if they succeeded, they would just go and throw him at mile two. They will not have filed their appeal. You see, because of the Hussein was bail, that's why the second day, the third day, they filed their appeal, because the appeal is already filed. But hadn't been that Hussein was remanded at mile two, they will wait until the 28 days, they file an appeal, just to make sure that he exhausted the 30 days that was given by the presiding judge. So these are some of the things that happens. So, but coming back to your question in regards to the D-Day. So, knowing very well actually a case from initial stage up to the final, they file their brief and the adoption of bill and apply on point of law. I look at all those documents and I do take time to compare all those things. So I would have been surprised if the judgment go against Usenu. So for me, I was not actually not that much nervous, because knowing to the court, understand what are the requirements for somebody to secure conviction, and why this is a criminal proceedings where you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt, and it's prosecution case that should convince that, knowing that all the evidence that were attended in the court, all the witnesses that testified, there was no direct linkage that can show yes, this is Hussein. What was actually proven by the court or the prosecution is that yes, there was a gun. And this is the gun that killed two officers. That was established by prosecution. And also that it was established that two people died and one was shot. That was established. But apart from that, now who did it, who trigger, who used the gun and trigger was never established. So for me, knowing all those things, I was not. But the court was the security apparatus that I saw there. I've never seen it in any other trial. I've been in court. The alleged coup d'etat of Sana Fadera, I was in the court. The case of Yankuba Ture, I was in the court. The case of Sol Baji, his first arraignment, I was at the court. The case of all these high-profile people, I was at the court. But the amount of securities that I see, from the police to the prison area guards to the intelligence officers, because we know each other, we know SIS members that we know they were there. We have the intelligence officers all over the courtroom. So I was like, the atmosphere, you could see that, oh, this is something else. But like Malmo said, the whole intention was, even after the judgment was delivered, Hussein would have been arrested there. But because of the number of people that came, the sympathetic people that came, and also knowing that, okay, the court has already closed, because Justice Jate takes 6 hours to deliver his judgment. So they know that the office that should have processed Useinu's bail, and knowing that the family was not expecting that there will be an issue of bail. So some didn't come with their ID cards. So they need to go home and come back, knowing that, okay, since they didn't fulfill their bail, Usain will be taken back to mile two. So that was the time they changed the whole issue. But, going on me court reading the judgment, you could see Usainu and the sister sitting in the dock, you know, highly concentrated on Justice Jaite, wanted to know their fate, uh, lawyers, law students, even some those who are practicing, those are magistrates, were also in the court just to witness this high-profile case. Family members are there. The court was full to its capacity, to the extent that others have to stay away outside. Yeah, and also planning to record this thing so that the people in the diaspora will have the opportunity. We wrote to the Chief Justice to say that we are interested to have this live, so that other people who will not have the opportunity to do, but actually our request was not actually accepted. So we went to the presiding judge, Justice Jade. Okay, now we will not do live, but can we record this thing and keep it immediately after you finish reading your judgment? We can post it so that other people will get the opportunity to know, because the judgment is too huge that nobody will give all the details of those things in their reports, and it is important for people to do this. So Justice Jada said if it is just recording, it's okay. So we decided to put our cameras, everything was set. Then the police came and they said, who gave us the instruction? We said, it's the judge. We went there and they bring in the security, arguments that, for security reason, you cannot have these people. You don't know what is the fate of other people. Pick up this thing. So we understand.
Pause it there a little bit, Kex. Melville, here, we've seen the trial of Yankuba Ture. We've seen it televised because it was a huge case that the state was very much interested in. This is what now that was the killing of just one person. Here we are talking about the killing of two police officers and, of course, injuring of one. 2 years, 6 months into the trial. It's the judgment day. Of course, can we record live? No. For security reasons that I do not understand. Again, can we just record and later play it? No, for security reasons. What does this speak to a common sense?
Yeah,
Well, the problem,
absolutely.
the
Because
problem I have.
okay, comment, Marlon.
No,
Come
no,
on, come
carry on,
on.
carry on.
No, come on, Melville. I wanted to get your perspective on that.
So the problem I have is that the courts are independent. Again, taking you back to the issue of separation of power. You see, you have the three arms of government that form the state: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Now, I want to understand, on what basis would the police ask questions on a permissible act that was granted by the judge that has jurisdiction over his
It's
court?
court, right?
And
Right.
I don't understand on what basis that grant to record withdrawn. Because
Forced.
if I was Justice Jaite, I would
Hmm.
tell the police to go outside of my courtroom whilst that judgment was being delivered.
Hmm.
So again, that is an executive overreach, because the police do not have any rights to determine what happens in Justice Jaite's court. Justice Jaite has full independence and authority over his court, over the deliberations and everything that takes place in that court. That is why when the application was made, it was not made to the police, it was made to Justice Jaite. But then it begs the question, who is the police trying to protect? Because the police have brought Usain Uboja. The police have made press releases where the identity of Usain Uboja was exposed. Now that he is acquitted and discharged, on what basis, what sort of security matters or anything whatsoever were you trying to protect?
But let me ask you this. Don't you think that after getting this person you claim had killed two people is the day of the judgment? You don't know anything that the judgment is going to be. Isn't it the interest of everybody to know and the state to be happy that, of course, if he is convicted, it sends a signal to everybody that nobody can kill can kill police officers in this country, that
Okay.
nobody can kill people here. But were they already with the mind that we have lost something and we
There's a
have to read?
distinction.
Mhm.
There's a distinction. I always say this, it's my favorite phrase. There's a clear distinction between education and knowledge.
Right.
These people are not stupid. They're not stupid when it comes to knowing that what they had presented in court can never secure a conviction of even a pussycat. So what they were avoiding was the public embarrassment of every single Gambian knowing that they have woefully failed in establishing the facts that supports the allegation that Usenu killed the cops. And not only that, Justice Jaite's marathon detailed judgment did not only go into the substance of why of the acquittal and the discharge. He actually meticulously in a logical flow, chronologically attacked the heart of the prosecution's case, piece by piece, witness by witness, evidence by evidence. But trust me, the fact that you were not in that court, I was not in that court, just the summary of the judgments from people like Keks can give you a feel of what transpired in that court. Just imagine what would have happened if the entire Gambia was able to follow in real time and see Justice Jaite attack the heart of the prosecution's case and expose the corruption, expose the fact that justice was not being sought, but rather it was conviction at all cost. To show that the state would put an innocent man and his sister behind bars to satisfy their ego, to satisfy the political agenda, to satisfy their political will, to satisfy the instructions that came from their superiors. It would have been a monumental disgrace, as Dr. Henry Carroll would say. And that is what they fought against. So the prosecution, they knew by all accounts that the entire Gambia knew and felt that Usainu Bojang was not guilty. And that is why I wrote the other day to say that what happened just before Utenu was formally charged was that the state had a particular narrative. That is why they went to West Coast Radio. That is why they called a press release. That's why they did the things that they did. They had a particular narrative. That alleged confession was leaked into the media by the state to propagate a particular agenda. They wanted people to believe that there had been a confession. And most Gambians bought into that. Most Gambians bought into the fact that they believed that Usainu killed the cops. But it took a twist. And like I like to say, it took people like you guys that came out to show another side of the story, to attack that false narrative and that false agenda. So even before the court established the truth, you and I were sitting here dissecting everything about that case. We can go back to the videos, they're there for posterity. Dissecting everything and making the ordinary Gambians know. You had people like Kex giving people real time, feel of what is going on in court. The evidences that are being relied upon that do not support the facts. But the question again goes to the heart of why would you want to send an innocent person to jail? Why? That's me. That's what I don't get. Why do people want to lie against innocent people? Why do people like to see an innocent person suffer? What do you gain? What do you derive? And then it goes to the heart of it. What was the objective of the killing of these innocent souls? We should never forget in having these discussions, we should never forget that two policemen, two men lost their lives. 3 years on, we don't have an answer. We are not nearer to the truth. We've had wasted resources, wasted state resources, following a lead, following an innocent person that we all know did not kill these individuals. Now, the question that I wanted to pose, if Osenu is not a rebel from Casamas, if the boots did not fit Osenu, if the alleged confession was lost, if the government spokesperson said he was misled, if the police advisor came to court and denied to say that he said things, the deputy IG came to deny what he said. If there were no coordinates, if the phone did not ping, it was locked up in a cupboard in an unknown house. The question is, why go through all the hardship and pain to paint a particular person wrong? But you know what? This is a dent on the state. Because people now know and people now see and people realize that the state can go after innocent people. That they have the capability, they have the wherewithal, they have the intention, they have the objective to go full-blown trial to prosecute a person that they know and believe in the heart of hearts is innocent. The DPP is human. He was given instruction. He was given a case to prosecute, but I can tell you that he's not a mumu. He's a smart man. And he knew in his heart of heart, whilst trying to secure a conviction, he knew that Usenu did not kill the cops. But again, we have this sort of attitude, this sort of of I don't know what you call passion, where prosecutors, state law officers want to secure conviction at all costs, regardless of what it is. They're not trying to seek the truth. They're trying to seek a conviction because they believe conviction goes under their belt and it adds to their feathers. I'll let you guys take it on.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Mavi.
very much. First, Ali, can you block this Mbalo who is constantly obsessed with me being arrested or whatever nonsense that is? You got to
Yeah,
take care of your comment section, man.
let me
I
see.
don't tolerate that from anybody personally, so, I'm not
Um,
taking that from nobody, brother. Like,
yeah, I'll
I
pick
don't
it up
care
from
what
there.
people think. Just get that shithole out of this web. Otherwise, I'm off this program. All right, thank you very much. And then to continue, Kex, I have this, follow up. We've seen, I want you to explain to us how the arrest actually occurred, because that is a very interesting episode that we should not get lost of. We definitely need to understand the processes and how that happened that day. I know you people were there for a couple of hours and all of that. Can you take us through how that happened?
Catch is muted.
Oh,
Catch.
we can't hear you, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're good.
sorry, I muted my mic. So, like when I make sure that whether that very day before I leave the court, make sure that whether Usain has fulfilled, knowing the court's process, knowing the procedures, whether he actually fulfilled the bail conditions so that he will be released and given to his family. But when I find out that the court actually closed and these people have to go and make sure that they bring all those documents, I know it was not possible. So I expected that the next day he should definitely fulfill all his bail terms and conditions and will be released. So as early as 9 my house, I went to Banjul, knowing that the courts normally, Gambia, they start 8. They will say at 8 o'clock, but 9 o'clock work start. So I went straight to the courts, and upon arrival, I went to the Sheriff Division to understand whether actually these people have fulfilled their bail. They said the bailiff already, they have fulfilled all their terms and conditions, and the bailiff already left to mile two to make sure that the release order is given to the prison authorities so that Hussein will be hand over to the bailiff, and the bailiff will actually bring Hussein back to the court because Hussein need to sign certain things before actually being finally released by the family. So and now he have to go through the bailiff has to go there, and Hussein will be hand over to the bailiff. Now he is no more under the custody of the Gambian police force or the prison, but he's under the custody of the High Court. So the belly went there, and upon my arrival, I asked. They said the belly was inside. So I waited. I waited almost 1 hour, 2 hours. I was there. Then 1 hour, some hour, now, then I see two pickup coming with paramilitaries, full, all full. So the other one went straight. So I get information that he stopped at Sting Corner and he was standing around Sting Corner end. Whilst the other one was just around mile two. So they went and faced the mile two gate, but at the other side of the road. So they were there for some time, then this guy came in, the bailiff came out, and we asked him how far with this process. He said, I'm still waiting. They said, the director have to sign. So I already give them the document. So somebody passed through here and took it to the director, because the director office is at the other end of the road. So you need to cross from the prison itself, where the mile two is, and the administration office is totally different. So they said somebody passed. So that was around 1 hour. So we waited, and the man went inside and sat there for some time. So after 1 hour or 2 hours, almost to 3 hours, the man came out. He said, "These guys are wasting my time." I said, "What happened?" He said, "They said the director already left. He's not here. So they're waiting for the director to come." So that was the time we start to click dots, and we made that publication that actually Usieno almost we have been waiting here for 3 hours. They said the director have to sign this document, but the director is nowhere to be seen. So we
But
made
here,
that
here, here,
publication.
here is the question. The director has a deputy and, of course, other people there. When the director travels, do they wait if people need to be released in mile two?
No, it doesn't happen because we have an organization that normally do pay people's fine that are actually been incarcerated in mile two based on monetary and they could not pay the money. So, but sometimes we even have the operation commander that will sign this thing. We have the deputy that will sign. I could remember there was, and even when we went for that, the director was totally not in the country. He was out of the jurisdiction of this country, but somebody signed. So for me, that was my question. That, but if in the absence of the director, the deputy is there. That's why you have the deputy. In the absence of the deputy and the director, you have the operation commander who is in charge of the whole mile too. So there must be somebody there. So the absence of director should not be their issue. So, but before we even finish that conversation, I see the pickup came back again. So when the pickup came, we see the director came, but he didn't even use his own official vehicle, but he took a pickup. So they entered the mile too, so that people will not actually maybe he disguise a form of a way of disguise. Because
Disguise, right?
he drive a Pajero that we will see the prison one. So but this time he came with a pickup. So they enter. So somebody tell me what was like the DG. I said no, this is not the DG vehicle. So but when I see his face, I know that this was the DG. So they went in and we were there. Then we get our intelligence because we also have people that we talk to. They told us that actually the vehicle that left, there's a pickup that left and went and stood at Sting Corner. So there's another para. So the moment they release Usienu and you guys are going, they will follow you people. The other pickup will be behind you people. So before you will, once you arrive at Sting Corner, these people will make sure that they stop your car. They will block Usienu's car and they make sure that they arrest Usienu. So that was the first information that we get. So, but that was not confirmed. But this is person who is very close to these people and understand. So that was the first information we gathered. So we were there sitting and waiting. They said finally the DG has signed the document. Hussein was coming out. So the moment we had that information, we see that pickup that was standing at the other side with paramilitaries crossed the road and came and stood next to the mile two gate. So the belly came out with Usenu and he wanted to proceed and enter his car so that he go and complete the judicial process because still now there's a judicial process. So once it was handed over to them, now Usenu is a free person under the custody of the courts until he go and sign that bond. So the man wanted to move with Usenu. The moment he stepped out, this three paramilitaries dropped from the car and they surrounded Usenu. So Usenu then maneuver just to give them way and go to the other end. The other guy hold his belt
Kex,
and
thank you
his
very
began.
much. Thank you very much. I spent 2 years, 6 months on this case. I wouldn't be on a program that people will be insulting me and I only deliberately fail to block them. I'm out of it.
No, I am blocking them. I think I
Honestly.
blocked a couple of them. So it is always difficult to monitor the comment section
Yeah.
while the program is going on. But
Yeah, so
once,
precisely that's what
yeah,
happens. So at the end of the day, we just see these three paramilitaries just, drag Usainu and they push him inside the vehicle. Next, they turn and look at Mama. Yes, it's Mama. I don't know. Ami. And they said, okay, Mommy, I'm getting. So I'm also getting. So once they drag them, they start driving. So I took my car. Then other journalists joined me. We drove until we reached at the police headquarters, Usainu, because they were in construction road there, so they could not pass. They stopped, and Usainu was dropped away from the car, and they entered the police headquarters. So we followed them inside the police headquarters and take recordings of it, and stood at the police gate waiting for them. What would be their next move? We were there for almost an hour or some time. We see them again. Usain was arranged, and a pickup came until at the gate, and Usain was taken out of the police station, and it was then put into the pickups. Then we drove again and followed them until we reached at mile 2. So Usain was actually the car enter completely in mile 2 with Usain. So we were there waiting to get some information. Then we got this information. The prison also denied accepting Usain because they believe that there must be a warrant and there must be a document that Usain was sent there by a competent court of jurisdiction, and they didn't have that document to say that okay, Usain was actually being demanded by a competent court. So there was this argument. According to the information we have, then they left Usain inside there. But the prison guys that were there, when they had that information that Usain was brought and without a court, they said we will not also put into the cell. So there was push and pull between the prisoners and also those who are inmates, one could say. They were also protesting. So the protest actually started inside the prison. These people were protesting that Hussein will not put into a cell. So Hussein was end up left in, they left in the reception. Where you will be done before you will be ushered into your various cells. So they said Hussein was kept there. So the night, then I got information that Usainu said they are coming to separate. They called me and said that Usainu is going to be separated with her sister and they might take him. So Usainu wanted me to come and stand at the prison gate and look at where they will actually take him. So it was night. So I then do some few communications, and when I get the information that they have changed of plan, all of them will spend in mile 2. So I said okay, it's fine. So I didn't end up going to mile 2. So that was actually what happened. Then in the morning, we see all these issues. Hussein was dragged and rearrested and taken back. So then immediately we left there, we went to Westfield, and we said that okay, this is the concept on that this is lawlessness, and we feel like it's against humanity, it's against the fundamental right of Usainu. So we gathered at Westfield and said that we must actually demonstrate to make sure that Usainu is left. So few people that gathered there, we start making our posters and start roaming in the street of Westfield, and we went and blocked the highway. So we were there, the paramilitaries come and confrontation between, and we said let's go and strategize. So the next morning, that was the Brookwood incidents, and we all see what happens. And finally, Hussein was released to his family.
That's incredible. We have blocked this guy quite a long time, but I believe people continue tagging him. So we are trying to filter his comments at some degree. I believe we need to be very civic in our discussions, and then this is Gambia for all of us. In an event that somebody is putting forward his opinion, and then you are here, you must be able to be very positive, trying to make comment very positive. If you have personal issue with somebody, you can just do that at your own level. So, but we're not going to condone that, and I have blocked all of them. So I believe Doc will be back. I know he's a bit pissed off with the comments that are coming from something bad, but he has been blocked since. So Mel, you have heard what Keck said so far, looking at the whole thing, trying to mastermind everything. But I just wanted to play this video of President Barrow. It's just 1 minute though. He has been very assertive in his wordings, and at some degree, I don't know. I don't know whether you will make sense out of this. Let's hear this together.
Jojo la disono nga respect bari man songal. Banko mangalo bagama be jajoja. Bugonde man sakunda mol nyama ma. Na ne atila man sakunda yola ku kono. Moye polisol fa banko kan. Ana buja polisol. Ndel man na mo mu daga mo kilindro ne muta duniya kono. Na ne usok ana ko jamu sofe. Rija fu ka ndel malom be menke kan. Nona atila man yola. Mune be jarlan delle wala. Na ne wa jare kutila. Ndel nit ñi ma ñolo. Na ne ko kuma ñolo dumbe. na man ku kilimo pawti nane ku kano ko mu ne kana be jarle nyanga tawo mu to Sénégal ka na di fo gam nane bu kane be jaw so mari ka di Sénégal mo do so bi ko fa tele mo nyi fa nane woto akila na so la dañu ka fa tele afa fana nane andu akila abuja anda mo mel fa o mu security leti nane bu kan kana mu ko security me ya lon ko be do ko la Gambia man sa ko dal ko kula ko ko mu ko be o security wala be Gambia tanka kan nane ku security ko ko ne ko e ga ni fama
The video is not playing. Okay, it is now.
Yeah, so I think all of us have had it together. I don't know whether Melvin, you were able to make sense out of that. He's talking
I
about
can't understand. I can't understand.
one thing that's
I've just read the people transcribing
yeah. So
yeah.
what do you make out of that? I believe you can wrap up the conversation with that.
Yeah, like I said, I mentioned it before. I just said that it was quite unfortunate because the president could have just instructed his, he's a minister of justice who is also the attorney general to, instruct the DPP to file an appeal, and then leave the courts and to determine the appeal based on the substance of the grants of appeal. But coming out to say that you believe that Usainu is the killer after he has been, acquitted and discharged by a court of competent jurisdiction, going by the ridiculous sort of evidences that was provided before the court that was given the weight that was due because of its really nonsensical nature. I think that was most unfortunate because really we have seen, I mean, to give him credit, we have seen a bit of sort of judicial independence and stuff. I for one know for a matter of fact that most of the time these court judgments, once they go against the state does nothing whatsoever to ensure that the judgments are complied with. But it was quite unfortunate to have him say this, and you could see the tone and manner in which he made his pronouncements. You could tell that he was a bit upset. But that's quite unfortunate. And the fact of the matter is, this matter has been, determined by a court of competent jurisdiction. I don't believe that it will succeed on appeal. There's nothing new and that the state law office can really, or the DPP can put forward, that would really change the the substance of the evidence that we have seen in the trial court. So by all indicators is that appeal will fail as well. And I feel that if the state want to maintain whatever little credibility they have, especially the state law office, it would be for them to withdraw that appeal, conduct another thorough investigation to determine who actually killed the cops, because the entire Gambian, and including now the courts, know that Usenu is not the one that killed those police officers. So the question still remains: who killed the cops?
Yeah. So my last question, Melvin. Two police officers are dead, and yet there has not been anybody who has been held accountable. What do you really think? Who fails the nation? Is it the prosecutors or the investigators?
The state. The state has failed the nation in that regard, and the state has a responsibility to give answers to the family of those slain police officers. The state have a responsibility to give answers to the overwhelming majority of Gambians that are interested in this matter, that are interested in the truth. And the question, who killed the cops, will continually, follow dogmatically the state and other institutions of the state until answers are given. So yes, the state is responsible, and the state must ensure that the people who are behind that hideous and gruesome murder of those police officers are brought to book.
Last question, Melvin. So, if you had to suggest what is the one reform this case should force the Gambian judicial system or justice system to look into?
The arbitrary filing of indictment against innocent people that are not based on factual evidence that has been established prima facie to show that the state is capable of securing a conviction in those cases. Because what it continues to do is to embarrass the state, embarrass the prosecutors, because one case after another, they keep losing them. And it shows that the Ministry of Justice, headed by the Attorney General, is not doing a due diligence in the cases they handle before they are brought before the courts. So one thing that should be should be learned in this matter is that the state, before going to court, must ensure that it will not embarrass itself, and that that going to court and filing an indictment is to seek justice, is to seek the truth, not to secure a conviction at all costs, even if it is to take an innocent person to jail.
Melvin, it's good to have you again. We can't wait to have you once time again. But what would be your last message? For today.
My last message would be that, really, for just to congratulate everybody that has been involved in this matter. The support that was given to Usainu, if he did not have such a support, he would probably be behind bars. He would probably have been found guilty, because really, I think a lot of credit should go to lawyer Lamin J. Dabo, a phenomenal, gentleman, a phenomenal person who took this case gratis, did not charge, did not take a cent from anyone. Would I mean, I think it's a laudable venture. It goes down in the history of the Gambia as somebody who really, his passion is to seek justice, his passion is to seek truth, his passion is to fight for the defenseless, that people.
Um, you're muted. Um, Mel, you are muted. I can't hear you. I don't know where it is from you. I can't hear you. You are muted. Yeah, I don't know. I can't hear you. But go ahead. Go ahead. I can't hear you. You are muted. Yeah, you are muted. Can you go out and come in again? I can't hear you. But go ahead. Um, for those of you who have been here from the starting of the program to this time, we thank you all for watching this program, and then most of you, endeavor to share this program far and wide to your followers, and then those who you think will definitely benefit from this session. And I also want to seek this unique opportunity to thank Dr. Yes, Mel.
Sorry, doctor was calling me, so he kicked me off the program. So I was just
Yeah.
saying, really, to summarize, was just to, a commendable, gesture, and a commendable act from lawyer Lamin J. Davo, who is a phenomenal gentleman, an amazing person, who stood up for Usainu, defended him to the very last. His main and sole objective was to establish truth and to seek justice. So that is something that is commendable, and another thing is just for us, for the entire gamut, to be vigilant, and to just ensure that justice is dispensed in a very fair and equitable manner. That, we continue to be the watchdog, continue to hold people accountable, and continue to ensure that people don't use their power and authority to and use the law to subject people to harm, and other acts that don't, really fall within the scope of truth and fairness. So, on that note, thank you very much for having me once again. It was a very good deliberations, very good discussion as always. And I wish you all the best in all your ventures and all that you do. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Melvin, for honoring our invitation to join us once again. Even though the schedule is very tight, we are in Easter. Friends and families are eager to enjoy with their loved ones. But we really appreciate your time, and then I will also seize this opportunity to thank Kexane for joining us in an hour plus conversation, and Doctor also for being around with us to have this conversation. And then, to our wonderful listeners and viewers who have been here from the starting of the program to now, we will say big thank you. I think today is the most viewed program I don't know for what reason, but we really thank you for being here with us, and we really appreciate your time and everything. And for those of you who do comment in the comment section, we don't go through all the comments because you cannot be hosting program at the same time, following every single thing. But anytime it has brought our attention, we always try to take a step to filter those comments, negative comments, and at some degree to, block the individual if the comment is very, very out of outrageous. So we thank you all for your positive comments. And then for those of you who has been here, and then please let's try to be very civic in our conversation. We'll be bringing more guests. We'll be bringing more conversation. We'll be bringing a lot of discussion, regarding the Gambia. We thank you all for being here. Thank you